Is it going? There it is. Hey guys, Lola Selena. I also go by Island Turtle. Welcome to BOMISpirit. So we're out here again. Happy Monday. I just wanted to hop on here to relay some things, and to be honest, I don't remember if I already talked about it. I was sitting here and I was like, I know I was live, like, like 2 or 3 in the morning some time ago, and I'm like, I don't remember. Did I say this? Did I not mention this? It was late in the evening. So I do want to relay some of this important information in terms of the astrology going on the next couple weeks, and the rest of the year, and a couple important themes that I think will just be helpful for a lot of people. Hold on, let me come up in here for a second. Wishing you a harvest of happiness, and sky full of dreams on this mid-autumn festival. May the beauty of the moonlight bring you peace and tranquility. Wow, what a statement. Thank you, Bad Robot. Thank you. And to everybody, sharing that with everybody. Today's your birthday. Hey, happy solar return. Happy Monday, 555 on the clock. Let's see. Happy full moon. Yes, happy full moon in Aries. It's finally here. Been following you since 2019. I've been so beneficial to my journey. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Been a bit of a roller coaster day, up and down. Oh, it's okay. It happens. It happens. So like I was trying to say, there are a couple important themes that I want to mention, and a lot of you saw my live, however many days ago that was. Time is so weird right now. About sacred bonds. I did a reading for sacred bond, and that's probably going to be a thing moving forward for a bit here and there, whenever it strikes, whenever it feels right and in alignment. But I didn't feel like I gave a good explanation in terms of how I am perceiving or defining, I guess, like sacred bonds or sacred partnerships. Again, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. So brain doesn't work so well at those hours, right? I love your sacred bond readings. I thank you for saying that. Like I said, I think they're helpful, and I think they're going to continue to be helpful. By the way, before I continue, there is a Patreon, there's a website, all that stuff. Just check that out if you're curious about certain things. So that being said, actually, you know what? Let me show you guys the view, and then just listen to my voice, and we can just hang out, talk, while we just enjoy the nature of it all. I'm in the same place I'm always am when I'm live with you guys. So try to enjoy it as much as I can before I have to move. Oh, got a little seal coming up here. We'll see if he gets in shot here. But yeah, just enjoy the view with me while I talk. So with this full moon Aries, and for the next couple of weeks, I'll get into the nitty-gritty of astrology, but I want to emphasize there is a lot of, he'll probably come back up. There's a really beautiful energy emerging around sacred bonds and sacred partnerships. This is mostly due to Juno. It's also due to Venus, actually, on and off, and these next 2 weeks are like, it's blossoming, it's blooming in terms of sacred bonds and partnerships, kind of a thing. Now, what I mean by that is these bonds and partnerships, they're not only solely romantic connections. They can be family, they can be coworkers, they could be friends, they could be people that you're meeting at this time, they could be people you already know. What I mean by these sacred bonds, there's an understanding of, how do I want to say, sometimes it's a shared goal, sometimes it's, hey, like, I'm obligated to this and you're obligated to this and we're in this together, kind of a thing. A lot of these sacred bonds and partnerships have some sort of significance in terms of spiritual growth or healing or support or love. They impact us deeply, and they also can be very transformative, especially given that Juno's been working with Pluto and will continue to work with Pluto for a little bit, okay? So that's what I mean by sacred bonds and partnerships. I think for a lot of people, these may actually be very prominent teaching relationships, like mentors, students, or even like counseling, or just literally like friends that you learn a lot from. There's going to be a lot of growth and self-exploration that comes out of these connections for the rest of the year. But these next 2 weeks, there's a lot of blooming and growing and deepening of these bonds, emerging of these bonds happening, also opportunities coming out of these bonds and these connections happening. Sorry, I thought I was getting something. Also, when I'm like on camera, it's easier for me to focus and not get sidetracked. So I'm trying to stay really focused right now. So my point is, the next couple weeks, pay attention to your relationships, pay attention to your bonds, pay attention to people that you meet, pay attention to people that you're feeling this natural inclination of spending more time with them, or more intimacy, or like being more open to certain people. And also be discerning as Saturn is starting to get deeper into Pisces and moving a little bit further away from Neptune. I went into all this deep dive as to why that pertains to sacred bonds over on Patreon during the weekly, and I do believe in the full moon hangout as well. So if you want to get even deeper into the astrology, you can head over there. But Saturn is playing a huge role too in terms of sacred bonds. But as Saturn is leaning off of Neptune for the rest of the year, it's not as grounded. Sorry, plane is coming by. Neptune's not as grounded, and so it can be a little easier to get a little lost in the sauce, if you will, in terms of like fantasy and hope and all those things. But I do believe that everyone's intuition's really on point right now, so I'm not too worried about it. Wait, could you cup the microphone in a way to shield a bit from the wind? I don't know where my microphone is, to be honest with you. Sorry, I don't know where it is on my phone. This is the thing about, going out in nature and filming. So beautiful. It's 10 p.m. here in India. Oh, wow. Sorry, Celine. Hopefully it's not too disruptive. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys actually hear what I'm saying okay before I continue? I'm just going to wait for that confirmation. Let me know. We can hear you. Okay, thank you. Also, don't forget to like the video or hype the video if you're enjoying this. Okay, so coming back. So yeah, just keep that in mind, that like Neptune is going to be a little bit more ungrounded. So just to, just keep your wits about you a little bit in terms of these bonds and partnerships. The other thing that's happening too is that while there's this blooming and blossoming happening, that's already started. So some of you may have already had moments where you're realizing you want to move closer to certain people, or you've met people, or you're feeling more sentimental about certain connections, what have you. That may have already happened. Some of you, it's about to happen, okay? But not this week, but next week, Venus is actually going to be moving into a sextile with Juno, creating what's called a mystic rectangle, which is beautiful. Don't get worried about the lingo. It's just really amping up this importance of sacred bonds and partnerships in a really positive, beautiful way. So just letting you know that it's already here, but next week is going to be even more potent than it is now in terms of opportunities and deepening and learning and opening and feeling called to and all these things. So there's that. And like I said, that will be for the rest of the year. Actually leading into the winter solstice, 12/21, that's going to be a really important day. Obviously, solstices and equinoxes are important. I view them as portals in and of themselves, but we are starting the winter solstice with a conjunction of the Sun, Venus, and Juno all together. So it's almost like the next phase or next level, or next chapter even, of what may be playing out in these sacred bonds and partnerships. Excuse me. So, summarizing the timeline. These next 2 weeks, stuff is happening, stuff is blooming, stuff is opening, stuff is deepening, presenting itself in terms of these connections. And then you're going to be, involved in these connections whatever way you choose to for the next couple months. Come the winter solstice, there's going to be a moment or a window to go into the next phase of whatever these connections are offering you, the next chapter, the next stage, the next phase. So just to give you guys a heads up with that. So just keep that in mind. The other thing I want to mention about the rest of the year, so I talked about this a lot with my patrons, with the Rainbow Tribe. So Jupiter is square Chiron and trine Saturn. It's official. It is here this week. Is going to be with us for the rest of the year, alongside the sacred bond, these sacred bond themes and connections and energy. The other thing that, I'm going to come back to that. The other thing that's happening is we also have a new grand water trine. We had one for maybe about a couple months, and then it dissipated, and now we have a new one emerging this week with Jupiter, Saturn, and Lilith. Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and Lilith in Scorpio, while Jupiter is square Chiron. What's interesting with all of this Grand Water Trine is going to be with us all the way through the end of November. So you see where I'm going with this, about like how these energies are kind of interlaced and riding with each other and supporting each other and intermingled, right? So the Grand Water Trine is giving us a lot of support in terms of, I really want to say it's circulating around Saturn. Even though we have this Jupiter square Chiron, and the reason I'm saying that is because while Jupiter squaring Chiron, Chiron is bridging with Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces, Chiron is in Aries. They're neighbors. They touch each other. They affect each other. Even if it's... Wow, lots of planes today. I'm not used to so much air traffic over here. Soon it's being a huge festival here in India. Oh, Diwali! That's right, Diwali. Can you guys still hear me okay? I just saw a comment about lost audio. I just want to make sure before I continue talking about Saturn here. Let's see. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for confirmation. Sip my coffee while I wait. Wait! Ah! As I spill my coffee. I really gotta watch this blanket. Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. If you're having trouble with audio, go out and come back in, and it should be okay. All right, so let's come back to why Saturn is probably the most important celestial body with the Grand Water Trine and this Jupiter square Chiron vibes here. So are squares crunchy? Yeah. With Jupiter being in the square with Chiron, it's actually the best kind of square we could hope for with Chiron. So, and again, I will circle back to that. But Saturn working with Jupiter and Lilith and bridging to Chiron, Saturn is basically the focal point of all these energies. Saturn being back in Pisces, which moved back into Pisces on September 1st, it will be back in Aries February 13th. You guys those dates. But when Saturn is in Pisces, how do I want to say? It's all about learning to get comfortable with the void. It's learning to get comfortable with the unknown. It's learning to solidify your faith. It's learning to lean into trust. It's learning to lean into the present. It's learning to lean into love. It's learning to lean into letting go and detachment and staying open, right? And staying present. I believe I already said that. For some, that may also coincide with leaning into any sort of practices or routines that help you with these things, whether it's something creative or whether it's something spiritual or what have you, or whether it's just literally like the power of your own belief in your faith. That's what Saturn in Pisces is all about. So as long as you're leaning into that and you are staying centered with that and aware of that when you may be going through a little bit of ups and downs for the rest of the year, I think you guys will probably be very golden, okay? The way that this is affecting the Chiron energy, here's what's also really interesting, because we have all this sacred bond energy that's super supportive for the rest of the year. And I mean supportive. Like, these bonds and partnerships are going to uplift everybody if you are open to that and if you engage in it in that way intentionally. But Jupiter square Chiron, basically what happens with that is Chiron starts to act up. Chiron starts to bring things up within us in our awareness, or even externally, that touch our pain points, that touch our insecurities, that touch our fears, that touch old memories, that particularly affect us in terms of identity, that affect us in terms of how we assert ourselves, how we believe in ourselves, our confidence, our self-esteem, the belief that we're capable, all of those kinds of things. But with Jupiter being here, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't even have to be that crunchy. It doesn't even have to be abrasive. Jupiter in Cancer basically allows us to get into our higher minds while staying in our hearts, and to have compassion and to have forgiveness and to lean into love and to see things for what they are, and to allow us to move past these things and to not allow ourselves to get in our own way anymore, okay? And we have Jupiter square Chiron for the rest of the year, just like we still have Jupiter trine Saturn for the rest of the year, just like we have the sacred bond energy helping us, uplifting us, and supporting us for the rest of the year. Again, 12/21, the winter solstice, is a day where all of this is also kind of coming to a head. Not in a way that's bad. I know some people use it that way, like that phrasing in that way, but it's like a climactic energy on the winter solstice until we move into whatever next chapter comes of that for all of us. So the rest of the year is going to be beautiful. Will there be moments where it's hard? Probably. That's life. That's just how life be lifing, right? But these energies are dancing with each other, so remember that. And especially these first 2 weeks, this week and next week, allow yourself to be open to people right now. Allow yourself to follow your intuition and your gut instinct of, you know what, I think I want to be close to this person. You know what, I think I need to go and call them up, or you know what, I think I'm going to go and sign up for that course or work with that teacher. However it's coming up or coming through, pay attention, because these people can literally change your life in these next couple of months, and especially these first 2 weeks. Yeah, so very important things. I'm glad I relayed all that to you. I think that's all I have to say about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm forgetting. I don't think so. So, okay. Oh, wait. Okay, no, there is something. And again, I don't remember if I shared this in the last live or not. I don't remember. I was in such an interesting state when I did that last live. So something I was intuiting about the next couple of months for the rest of the year that I brought to my patrons, and then we went on this deep dive of the astrology, and I was like, oh, okay, okay, what I'm feeling is collective. October was feeling very much like a hello, is how I'm describing that. Like being introduced to something new, someone new, a new environment, or just like allowing yourself to touch something, introduce yourself to something, or being introduced to something that, again, is like kind of new, kind of promising. Maybe it seems really small, and maybe you have no idea how massively important it's going to be, or how much it may even change your life. What was the mystic rectangle? I will come back to that. Remind me, just because some people get very overwhelmed when I get into the details of astrology, and some people love it. So I'll save that towards the end. Just remind me. Don't let me forget. I want to stay focused on this. So October's feeling like a hello. November is feeling very much like pleasure. November's feeling like swimming in the hello, like getting really acquainted, going deeper. But it feels like pure water to me. It just feels very like fun and flowy and pleasure oriented. And then I realized in November, and I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure in November we are going to be having the new moon Scorpio and full moon Taurus, which I was like, oh, okay, that kind of jives, that kind of makes sense. And December was feeling more like an anchoring. December was feeling more like something is getting locked into place. And I think that's what's happening with the winter solstice and some of these energies we have around sacred bonds and partnerships, and what we have going on around Jupiter square Chiron, trine Saturn, while Saturn is bridging Chiron. That's just what I feel. It's just what I sense. Everyone's different. But that's what I sense as a broad stroke for the collective as of right now. Y'all know how it is. Everything's always subject to change. But yeah, that's how it's feeling. Oh, it's not a lake. I'm on the ocean. It's ocean. Yeah. So engage, have fun, be social, and even if something seems small, it may be life-changing at some point during the course of your year in a way that's, again, uplifting. So I'm just going to say that. Actually, okay, no, there's one more thing I'm going to say. I always think there isn't, and then there is. Juno, the sacred bond partnership energy, is very interlaced with this minor grand trine of remembrance, which I've been talking about this entire freaking year. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, with talking about this, but recently it's almost been wanting a new name as it's evolving and as it's shifting. So words, sorry, the comments are distracting me. I'm trying to stay focused. So the way this minor grand trine is shifting, this minor grand trine is between Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini, which has been working with Sedna in Gemini for a while, Neptune in Aries, which, as we know, has been working with Saturn. We've had this minor grand trine this entire year. We've actually had it even longer than that, but the waves are kicking up. Always happens when the fairies come by. I'm gonna wait. Just enjoy the sound. Okay. Okay, let's continue. So we've actually had this like on and off for years, to be honest with you. But this year is when certain transits locked some big energies into place. Just like Neptune moving into Aries, Uranus going into Gemini, Pluto going into Aquarius, that kind of thing, right? So we've had this all year. And now that all of the celestial bodies in this minor grand trine have been retrograding, we've been integrating. We've been embodying, we've been learning to walk in some of the things we have become aware of about ourselves earlier in the year. It's been a beautiful observation with the way this minor grand trine has been working in the collective. Because again, it's allowed for authenticity to come forward. It's allowed for creativity to come forward, innovation to step forward. And also at the same time, Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius have been assisting and enabling and pushing a little bit of global reordering. So just giving you a little bit of information on that. But now that Saturn is stepping back from this minor grand trine, we are also going to start to see the other celestial bodies start to shift. Pluto is going direct this month, if I'm not mistaken. I actually think it's next week. Pluto's going direct. Neptune is going to move back into Pisces. Uranus is going to move back into Taurus. And all of this is going to happen before the end of the year. And so this energy that we have been sitting in, learning from, exploring ourselves and possibilities and what have you, is shifting dramatically. And in some ways, almost to an older aspect, an older energy that we were used to a couple years ago. So I'm just starting to feel this now. I haven't sat with this before. It's literally coming up to be spoken on right now. So I guess also just to say, don't be surprised if there's almost like, interesting, where things come off the shelf. That's how that wants to be said. Where things come off the shelf. Maybe things have been put away, things that maybe you gave up on, or maybe things that just were not aligned in the moment, or it could be coming back during the last couple months of the year as these celestial bodies move into these older positions. Interesting. That also being said, since Juno's aspecting all of this, these sacred bonds and partnerships, these 2 weeks, this week and next week, there may be a connection for a lot of you amongst these bonds and partnerships and whatever you have been discovering about yourself or trying to entertain for yourself that's in the realm of new. Whether that's like, I don't know, a new hobby, talent, interest, a job change, a location, you know what I mean? These kinds of things. Interesting. Why does that really, honestly, I don't know why I need to whisper all of a sudden. Why does that really feel like the next couple months? Yeah, like things you gave up on. I'll throw myself in there. Things that we completely gave up on, things we thought were like not possible or too hard, suddenly are just falling into our laps, or suddenly made possible because of these bonds and partnerships. I don't know. So I'm just saying. I don't know. Well, no, I do know. That's how it feels. That is kind of how it feels right now. Very interesting. Oh, hello. I don't know if you guys saw that on camera. I don't know what that was. Maybe it was a fae, because I've never seen it. I've never seen a bug that looks like that before. Um, so yeah, we have a beautiful rest of the year for everybody. You just gotta believe that. And you just gotta see that. I know there's a lot in this world to make us think otherwise. Um, doesn't mean you need to feed that. Doesn't mean you need to absorb that. Um, that's also another lesson of Saturn Pisces, especially in this grand water trine with Jupiter Cancer and Lilith in Scorpio. The power of belief, the power of relying on what your heart knows, the power of relying on what your soul knows and what your intuition tells you. Follow that. That'll absolutely lead you to elevated experiences. And that's what these bonds and partnerships are supposed to do for us in these next couple months. Lead us to elevated experiences, lead us to elevated realities. You just have to see it. You just have to say yes. You just got to be open and receptive to it. Thank you, Bree, for the $4.99. Thank you. I got caught up in talking, so I didn't look down for a second. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was very sweet. So on that same note, I will also mention. A lot of you already know that I'm in the midst of, you know, some moving. I'm so sick of that word. And so the rest of the month may be a little, busy for me, a little hectic for me. I'm going to try to make it as easeful as possible, but I do think most of my content will probably be circulated around this kind of format, but I have a whole list of things. I've had a whole list of things for a while about content I've been wanting to put out, and like certain readings I've been wanting to do, some just like videos of astrology explanations and things I want to do, some important themes that want to be spoken about. So I'm hoping that I will have time to do that, just when I have time to do that. The spot is so beautiful. Is this near your new place? Oh, I'm not at my new place yet. Well, I have an idea of what's words. I'm so sorry. Words. How do I want to answer? How do I want to say that? All you need to know is that I'm not by my new place yet. Just a quick ask: if you're enjoying this content, please like and share. Oh, thank you, Marcy. Thank you for reminding people. I wonder if you have Uranus influence on your fourth house since you move places a lot. No, I do not, actually. I do not. It's so funny too when like you get into astrology. It's like at some point, well, it's like actually no, it's really interesting because like they're like in terms of my placements, I know them like the back of my hand. But when I go and I sit down to like look at my chart, I always discover some sort of like new dynamic that I didn't see before or one I forgot about, which is always fun and fascinating. But no, I don't. I don't have a Uranus influence on my fourth house. I have a Uranus influence on my seventh house. Very strongly, which is, it is what it is. But also with astrology, we go through phases, right? You have these more long-term generational planets. When they move slow. And so if you do have, it's very possible to go through a very long phase that is Uranus-like or Pluto-like or Saturn-like because of transits, that is a thing. So I will say right now, like where Uranus is impacting my chart in like a major way, but not explicit to my fourth house. And also my natal chart, I don't have Uranus aspecting my fourth house explicitly. But yeah, astrology is very fascinating. I still don't know what kind of bird that is. Maybe it's a chickadee? I love the sound they make. They're not out here too often. I wish you so much luck with your move. Thank you. Would you recommend anyone for a birth chart analysis? I know my placements, but not good at reading how aspects affect each other. So for a long... Oh! Hey, guy. I don't know if you guys just saw that seal. He may be coming up a little bit. I'll angle it so we can probably catch him in the shot. What was I saying? For a long time, I was offering analyses, and I love doing it. I do. I love doing it. It just takes a lot out of me, and so I would like to get back to that again. I just need to be settled and have bandwidth to do that. But yeah, I think it can be helpful. Like if you're not good at astrology yourself, I think it's absolutely worth, going to an astrologer and just getting their perspective and their, what they see. I will say though too with astrology, while astrology is a study, it's also divination. And there are so many different ways to study it. There's so many different perspectives. There are some like universal laws of understanding or universal thought forms in terms of just like the literature and things. But understand too that astrology does have a subjective component to it, and a divination intuitive component to it. And I, just from my experience, and this is just my belief, I'm not saying this is absolutely true, but from my experience, astrologers that don't rely on their intuition, I think, give a very limited and biased point of view, to be honest. One that is more just kind of stuck in the literature and the traditional teachings, and not one that is open to the constant evolution that's happening, even with our planets, you know? So I will say that. KRS astrology is amazing. I love him. He's bomb. He does Vedic sidereal, but I do believe he actually still does like chart readings and things. So if you're wanting a perspective, you know, someone who has dedicated their life to this kind of a thing and you don't mind that it's in Vedic sidereal, he is absolutely incredible. I love him. And he does rely on intuition as well. He stresses the importance of that. I do Tropic Western. I do know about Vedic. I've studied it on and off through the years. I think it's interesting. I think it can be a little too rigid. Excuse me. I think it can be a little too rigid sometimes. I feel like it really emphasizes like a lot of emphasis on karmic influence and energies, which I understand. A lot of absolutes. That's what it is. That's the thing about Vedic that I don't really love. Like, it's a lot of absolute black and white teachings, but the teaching of padas, the teaching of nakshatras, like, I actually do ascribe to that in my own way. In my own way. And for me, it's more about, how do I want to say this? I understand the importance and the nuance of these, how the energies change from degree to degree, I think is a good way to say that. From degree to degree, but also from constellation to constellation and fixed stars to fixed stars, which I also think has a massive influence that I think is very underrated. So needless to say, I don't think there's a perfect system out there, but I think every astrology lens, teachings, has something to offer. Didn't mean to make this a whole TED talk on astrology, but I'm not sure how this works when I'm feeling hermit mode. If you're feeling hermit mode, that's okay. I mean, these connections can also come about digitally. They don't have to be in person, but I think for a lot of people, they will have a level of intimacy to them, which again, intimacy is just, it's a deep vulnerability. It's not always romantic, right? Do you find having water in your chart makes you a more natural astrology divination reader? I think there are a lot of different things that go into that, because I think, so, okay, we'll talk a little astrology, but I probably should go soon just for the sake of time. I got a lot to do today. So I'll mention this before I go. That's the thing I love about astrology. Every house, every sign, every planet, covers a lot of different things in and of themselves. And that's why I love the intricacy of how the patterns dance. Because, like, you can have a very specific placement and someone could go, yeah, that's the placement for an astrologer, but there's so many different things that can create a breeding ground for someone who could be good at that or who would want to get into that. As far as the houses go with astrology, I would say 3rd house, 8th house, 9th house, 11th house, 12th house. I would say, like, those are prominent houses where astrology could come up. Signs, I think water signs, you know, being naturally intuitive could. I actually think Scorpio probably is, like, predominant there, because they do care a lot about hidden knowledge and occult and things of that nature. Hence also why 8th house is part of that. But you could lump all the water signs in there just from the intuitive standpoint, but I would say Scorpio more so in my experience. But Gemini for sure. Aquarius, yeah. I could see, and again, speaking to the water signs, I could see Pisces, Sagittarius for sure. Sagittarius, I could see in that. So that's what I mean. It's like you could have certain aspect patterns with Sagittarius and Aquarius and Scorpio, and that could breed that. You could have a lot going on in your 8th house or your 11th house or your 3rd house, and that could breed that. And also to say, free will. That's the other component about astrology. Like, you have the infrastructure and the literature and the teachings, and then you have the fact that they are energies, and even these celestial bodies, I look at them as their own consciousness even, and like their own entities in and of themselves that people can connect to if they want to. And they do shift, just like everything in our cosmos shifts and evolves over time. Sorry, so many things just came in as I said that. And then on top of it, you have free will. Just because your chart says, let me say it another way. Just because an astrologer says, hey, you have this here, this is what you will do, or this is what's going to happen, you have absolute free will to do whatever the hell you want to do, And that in and of itself also creates different potentials and opportunities for these different energies to manifest different things, right? This is also why I say, like, when I'm speaking about astrology, I basically say, like, hey, we got themes about sacred partnerships going on. Here's what could happen. Here's what could happen if you engage with it. But at the end of the day, whatever that unique experience is completely up to you. And also it's up to the people you're interacting with, right? So, I love astrology. It's a beautiful compass. It's a beautiful map. But I do think some people take it to extremes in a way where it becomes more of a limited belief, actually. I think some people I will say that. I think people get so into it that they allow it to become very limiting in terms of what they think is possible. Which I think it should be the opposite. I think it should show us potential and opportunities, not limit us, Mystic rectangle reminder. Oh shit. Okay. Okay, and then I got to go. Then I got to go. So, mystic rectangle, how do I want to say this? Okay, so recently you guys heard me talk about the grand crosses. So grand crosses have 2 oppositions. I would show you, but I'm loving the view, and I think you guys are loving the view too. So grand crosses, you have 2 oppositions that create a cross, literally, right? You have one line intersecting the other perpendicularly, right? A grand cross, though, what makes a grand cross is that all of those 4 points, right? You have 2 lines intersecting, so you have 4 points. Let's get into math and geometry stuff here. All of those points are creating squares. That's what makes a grand cross difficult. What's different about the mystic rectangle, you have that same cross. You have those 2 oppositions. But instead of squares, you have trines and sextiles. So you basically have positive energy versus squares, which is like more difficult, straining, conflicting, tension-filled energy. And so that being said, it's like, well, a grand cross is helping to master modality, because a grand cross happens when you have a complete modality lit up. Like, you have celestial bodies in all the fixed signs or all the cardinal signs. That's why we call them grand fixed cross or grand cardinal cross. But if you have a mystic rectangle, it's a little bit more complicated in that way, where it's like, I'm trying to think of the actual one we have. So Venus will be in Libra, sextiling Juno in Sag. But both of them will be aspecting the minor grand trine. Both of them would be aspecting Pluto. Both of them will be aspecting Uranus. And both of them will be aspecting Neptune. Again, creating sextiles and trines, not squares. So a mystic rectangle is basically a supportive, positive version of a grand cross. I think is the easiest way to summarize that. And so where you have the tension of the oppositions happening, all of the tension that's created, which oppositions, it's just about balancing tension. It's like, it's not as hard actually as a square. But anyway, you have all this tension with the oppositions, and so all that tension energy is going directly into the trines and the sextiles, like literally into positive outlets. While with a grand cross, all that tension is being funneled into squares. And it's like, good luck with that. So that's how I would describe a mystic rectangle in terms of just how the energy flows. Um, yeah, yeah. So I hope that landed. I hope that helps you to feel better, or at least a little bit more clear. I'm gonna take that as the cue. All right, guys, I'm gonna go. Have a really great Monday, and you'll see me when you see me. Patrons, you guys see me very regularly. We're gonna maintain our schedule, as we do in the way that we do, and yeah. Oh, also patrons. Actually, I guess also people here on YouTube. Hello. Uh, I mentioned in the last hangout on Patreon that I may create a document to help a little bit with some of like as like a little mini calendar for the rest of the year, just to see the side by sides of this grand water trine, the Jupiter squares Chiron, the sacred bond energies. I really do want to do it. I do. It's on my list. I can't guarantee it just because, I do have a lot going on right now that I need to prioritize. But if I do have the bandwidth, I will be doing that. So just letting you guys know, it means something to me, essentially. But yeah, I'm gonna go. Have a great Monday, and I'll see y'all later. Take care.